So I think, we can say, like, we are living in an era of an emergency presidency and broadly in an era of emergency politics. But I do think it's important to note that actually it's Democrats who first turned to the emergency powers of the presidency. It was, the new powers really don't even exist until the late 1970s. Some new set of powers.
Oh, really? This is not a New Deal leftover?
No.
This is not
No.
A Civil War leftover?
No. So, for instance, Carter declared one national emergency in his 4 years, Reagan 6 in 8 years, but Clinton declared 17 national emergencies in his 2 terms, and that was not in Bush's presidency with 9/11, right? So Obama 12, Biden declared 9 in 4 years. Democrats have been very eager to use declarations of emergency, and not for different reasons in a way than Trump, which is to say the federal government is dysfunctional, right? Congress is feckless and impotent, and the Supreme Court has a disproportionate amount of power. But the presidency has become an entirely deformed office. I do think we should think about it as an emergency presidency, but I guess I just want to point out that I think we've been living under an emergency presidency for about 20 years now. And I think that's worth considering, which is not to suggest that there's anything harmless or ordinary about what's going on right now. It is extraordinary, and it is, I think, frankly, terrifying. But I do think we could appreciate its consequences better if we have that sense of chronological perspective.
Yeah. That was kind of the point, is that it feels like we have been sleepwalking into this idea of an unaccountable executive through the use of these first executive orders and now emergency declarations. But Kevin, you were going to say something.
Yeah, just to follow up on Jill's point about the long history. Absolutely right here. And I think the point about Congress being involved is right. It was actually even more than Jill said. It wasn't 5 minor bills. There were 15 bills in the first 100 days, pretty major ones, reorganizing industry and banking and agriculture and setting down things like the TVA and the Civilian Conservation Corp and on and on and on. Massive stuff. But the key point there is he declared these emergency powers, then immediately went to Congress, summoned Congress back into session to pass bills. And Congress did that. So it wasn't that the emergency is declared by the president and that solves everything. The emergency declaration is meant to be a stopgap measure until Congress can get its act together. And Congress has, and this is, Jill's absolutely right, over the last 20, 40 years, has really abdicated its role in government. And that's what's remarkable about this moment is Trump has both houses of Congress. He hasn't by slim margins, but his allies are in control. He could get legislation to them and through them probably if he simply put his shoulder to it, but he doesn't want to. He simply wants to sit back and issue emergencies. And most baffling, Congress has agreed to neuter itself, right? And has stepped back and said, whatever the president wants is fine with us.
But see, that actually makes sense. It follows a certain logic. No one has more control over the Republican Party than Donald Trump. And even these, I keep hearing the news talk about the slimmest of margins in Congress. They won't be able to get anything passed. This won't ever happen. They haven't had any defections. And as far as I can tell, the Republican Congress is overwhelmingly happy to abdicate to the president because he's not doing anything they disagree with. Or if they do disagree with it, they're too afraid to speak out. Right now, honestly, the largest schism in the Republican Party is how big the SALT tax deduction is going to be.